What if you could kick off a machine learning experiment before bed, and wake up to 11 rounds of autonomous research already completed? That's exactly what happened when Karpathy open-sourced something called Autoresearch, a framework that lets an AI agent run experiments, evaluate results, and improve its own code, completely on its own, without a human in the loop. And honestly, playing with it feels like a genuine shift in how we might work with AI going forward. Let's back up for a second. You've probably heard of vibe coding. That's where you describe what you want, and an AI writes the code for you. Then there's what people call agentic engineering, where you're orchestrating a more complex AI workflow but you're still steering the ship. Autoresearch pushes past both of those. The human's role here is more like a research advisor. You write a single markdown file describing your goals, point the agent at the problem, and walk away. The human doesn't orchestrate, they just describe what good research should look like, and then leave. The whole system rests on what Karpathy calls a 3-file contract. First, there's prepare.py, which handles your data and defines the one metric you care about. Second, there's train.py, and this is the agent's entire sandbox, the only file it's allowed to touch. Third, and most importantly, there's program.md, which is your job to write. That file is where you bring your expertise. You explain the goal, the constraints, and suggest research directions worth exploring. Get that file right, and the agent can run meaningfully. Get it wrong, and you'll get a very busy night of very useless experiments. Once you kick it off, the agent enters what's called a ratchet loop, and I love this metaphor. The agent proposes a hypothesis, makes a change to train.py, runs the training for a fixed time budget, say, 5 minutes, and then checks whether the metric improved. If it did, that change gets committed to the codebase. If it didn't, git reset wipes it out like it never happened. Like a mechanical ratchet, the code can only move forward. There's even an instruction baked into the system that says, essentially, never stop, never ask for permission, keep running until the human interrupts you. Which is a little intense when you read it, but that's the whole point. Now for this to actually work, 3 conditions need to be in place. 1. You need a single, clear, automatically measurable metric, something the agent can evaluate without human judgment. 2. You need exactly one file the agent is allowed to edit. 3. You need experiments that fit inside a defined time box. If those 3 things are true for your problem, this approach can work. And here's what's exciting, it's not just for machine learning. Think about optimizing the load speed of a website, backtesting a trading strategy, or refining marketing copy against an engagement metric. Any domain where you can define better numerically and let a program measure it is fair game. In the demo that inspired all of this, the setup was pretty accessible. A standard package manager called UV, a macOS-friendly fork of Autoresearch, the Mistral vibe coding assistant running in what they called dangerous auto-approve mode, and a Hugging Face dataset full of folklore and mythology. The goal was to train a small GPT-style language model and reduce something called the validation bits per byte score, essentially a measure of how well the model is learning to predict text. After 11 experiments running overnight, the score improved steadily. And when you look at the text the model generated, you can actually see it. Early outputs are basically word salad. Later outputs have real grammatical structure. Still nowhere near fluent, but measurably, concretely better, and nobody was awake to make it happen. The part that stuck with me most, though, is what it means for the human role. Writing a good program.md is hard. You need to know which research directions are actually promising. You need to understand what better means in context. You need domain expertise to set up constraints that aren't too loose or too tight. The agent can run the experiments, but it can't replace the judgment that decides which experiments are worth running in the first place. Automation can accelerate the loop, but the wisdom about where to point it still has to come from you.